And along that same line, what are your ideas for solving the transportation issues within the county, and what solutions would you propose to solve the lack of transportation funding?
Well, solving the transportation problem is going to require capital. This next year, based on everything I'm seeing, is all about controlling, basically staying afloat. In the long run, the county did something very smart several years ago where they decided to put $1 million additional every year into the road fund. As soon as possible, and that has not officially been eliminated this year, I don't think, from the budget, but as soon as possible, if that does get eliminated, we have to get back on that track, back on that course. What was the second part of your question, Joe?
Well, they were related, how to solve the transportation issues and how to solve the funding issues.
Well, a number of things need to be done. We need to start lobbying hard at a state level. A lot of our issues have to do with state and federal roads, and we've done some of that. I know we need to do more of that, lobbying for some sort of funding from the state. We need to do more of what I think we're doing with respect to figuring out and pinpointing where improvements need to be made. And if you look at the 2030 comp plan, we've done that. Now the challenge is going to be finding the revenues and the resources to accomplish these things.
Thank you, Chris. Tom, transportation issues and lack of funding?
Well, part of the lack of funding is what Chris said, it's the state. We pay, when we go to the gas station and someone fills up 20 gallons of gas into their truck or car or whatever, they pay $9 in tax per tank of gas. And out of that, there's federal tax dollars and state tax dollars in there. But in Scott County, we're getting 40% of the dollars back to us for our roads. I think we need to get that double that, because we're a growing county and we're busting at the seams here with other mandates that the state is pushing on us. And when you look at transportation, that is the most, I think, one of the most basic needs of the county citizens is to move them to and from their homes to work or to school or to see their family or whatever they're doing, their hockey night or baseball night, whatever it is. Roads are our first most important product that Scott County provides.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, what is your stand on the future land trust applications from the Shakopee, Manitowoc, and Sioux community?
Well, there's two reasons the tribe, the Shakopee, Mid-Wauketon should get land and take it off the trust, and that is economic reasons. And as far as I can see right now, they don't need it for that, and for housing. And I think they just took off 752 acres, so I don't know that they need any more land for housing. I would oppose those because it's going to cost us all more money in taxes if we take them off the tax rolls. And I don't think that's fair to the citizens of Scott County.
Thank you, Tom. Chris, future land trust applications.
Well, it's an interesting question in that, I think you're asking for my opinion. And I know that the county's opinion does factor into the equation that the BIA considers when making decisions on these things, but I don't know that it's a very compelling part of that question. I understood that there were more reasons that they could put land in trust beyond economic and housing, and I'll have to look into that a little bit further. Regardless, if there's not an articulable need for that to be done, I'm going to try to have a little faith in the BIA that they're not just going to capriciously allow that to occur. Like Tom said, they've got 600-700 acres now in trust. I think in the foreseeable future that's more than adequate for any articulable reason that I can think of. So I'm going to take it on a case-by-case basis, but at this point I would probably agree that I would oppose any future land trusts.
Thank you, Chris. Chris, do you support the county's proposed land use plan?
Yes, and I base that primarily on conversations I've had with people in my district, and almost without exception, the folks from the townships that I've spoken with are supporting the 2030 comp plan, and it's consistent with their needs of the township. 2 days ago I heard something from the Credit River Township folks that there's some disagreement amongst themselves, but when I spoke to them, there were no issues with the 2030 comp plan as it was presented to them.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Tom?
It depends who you talk to about that 2030 comp plan. I've heard some people say it's a great plan, looks good. It's a real pretty colorful chart of the county, and there's growth in, in and around the cities. But some people think it's too much growth, and we're getting to be too much. Maybe we're going to look like Bloomington in 10 or 20 years, or by 2030. And a lot of people moved out into some of the townships because they like the open space. They want their 5 or 10 acres, and they don't want the growth. But at the same time, if you don't own the land, I'm not going to tell somebody you can't develop it, because right now we'd love to have some land developed. We need the revenue.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, what have you done to prepare yourself as a county board candidate?
I've done a lot. First of all, I'm on the board of directors. As I've said before, I have talked to every commissioner in Scott County at this point. I've talked to some heads, department heads here. I've talked to a lot of employees and past employees, found out what's good about Scott County, what's bad about Scott County, what we can do better, where we can cut, where we can save here and there. I've talked to a lot of people, and I believe that's given me a lot of insight into what and how Scott County works.
Thank you, Tom. Chris, preparing yourself to be a county board member.
I've spoken with the county attorney, Leslie Vermillion, Mike Swoboda, Dave Onmont, Deputy Gary Shelton, Deputy Administrator. I've gone around to all the townships and met with them individually to speak with them specifically about the 2030 comp plan, to introduce myself, get to know them. I've obviously read the county Bible, 2030 comp plan several times, as my wife will attest. And also Tim Walsh, I should mention Tim, and he's taken some time with me to explain some rather difficult issues that Department of Health or the Human Services locally is facing as a result of some actions the state has taken lately. So, like Tom, I've met with a lot of people, spoken to a lot of people, tried to garner as much history as I can, and try to get as much information about the operations of the county as I can.
Thank you, Chris. Chris, what should the county's role be in protecting the environment, and is it doing enough?
I'm actually pretty impressed with the county in its role in protecting the environment. In fact, I believe Mr. Frechette is doing an admirable job at that, and to the point of irritating developers. And, this is, I support it. We need to do anything that's reasonable, and most of what the county is doing is reasonable. I have not heard of any examples of anything unreasonable that's been required. And the watershed districts in this region are very professionally run and very helpful, and they're a real asset to our region.
Thank you, Chris. Tom, the county and the environment.
I think they've done a lot, and I think some people say they do too much, especially when it comes to septic tanks. Some people say there's right across the line in Scott County, out from Cedar Lake Township to the sewer, they can have ditch type of septics, and they're more efficient and cleaner. But here in Scott County, we can't have them. I think that's a county decision that needs to be looked into. And environmental issues, I'm all over that, because we need to be good stewards of the environment. Where I'm at with the co-op, we have to get 25% of our electricity from renewables, not from coal, not from natural gas, from wind or whatever, solar. And that's a big thing for me. Environmental issues are good.
Thank you, Tom.